Hi everyone, Canoopsy here. The iPhone X has mainly been my daily phone for the last 6 months, and I've really enjoyed my time using it. But not everything is perfect. So first, I've kept my iPhone X in mainly an Apple case for the last little while, and it has held up pretty well. Now the glass, there is no screen protector, no protection whatsoever, and there are some scratches, but nothing too deep. I didn't want to use a screen protector this time because with all the new swiping gestures, that edge on a screen protector that's kind of sharp limits how well you can actually swipe. It's very fluid, and past iPhones with home buttons kind of feel a bit archaic. But with no home button, there's no fingerprint scanner, and there is Face ID. And Face ID 6 months later is actually still pretty good. You sort of learn what works and what doesn't work with Face ID, like some angles work better than others, it works better at nighttime than during the daytime outside, but you're gonna have to type in your password kind of often at first because when Face ID fails, there's really no other option to unlock your phone. And by the way, the notch, it faded away for me after the first week. I don't even notice it at all today, but I definitely wish it was a bit smaller. Then again though, there is no chin on this phone compared to most other new phones coming out with a notch, so it looks infinitely better. The new, smaller size of this phone took some getting used to coming from a larger Plus model iPhone, but it is so much better to have this much screen in such a small form factor. And that display is still incredibly good, with also no burn-in at all. Performance has largely remained the same since I got this phone 6 months later. Nothing feels slower, and nothing feels faster. But when compared to other Android phones, it can feel a tad slower than those phones, and that's because of the speed of iOS animations. They are noticeably slower compared to the speed of Android animations. You can also see some of the main apps that I use on a daily basis. I'm pretty basic and I mainly stick with mostly Apple applications for everything like Safari, Apple Music, HomeKit, Notes, Reminders, Weather, everything basically except Apple Mail because it's terrible. These apps can feel a bit boring or featureless at times, but they do provide all the necessary things I need, plus iCloud support transfers everything from my iPhone to my Mac and my iPad almost instantly, which is such a seamless convenience. There are a lot of great positives I can keep talking about with this phone, but the major negative for me has to be the battery life. So right off the bat, battery life 6 months later definitely isn't great. For a while the phone lasted me a full day of usage easily, from 7 AM to around 11 o'clock at night, but now the battery is usually very low around 5 o'clock on busier days. There also of course have been the glitchy occasional software issues here and there, but for me personally, the biggest complaint that I have 6 months later is the battery life. It drains very quickly throughout the day and it may just be my phone or my usage, but my battery health is also at 96%, which I don't really think is that great. But back on the positive side once again, the camera experience on this phone still definitely holds up. Photos in daylight with HDR look excellent, colors are beautiful with some added extra vibrancy at times, and contrast is great. In some occasions I wish HDR was a bit more aggressive like the Pixel 2 and 2 XL, especially in bright scenes outdoors, but this camera setup largely takes incredible, satisfying shots. The telephoto lens also just makes life so much better, and I miss it on basically every other phone that doesn't have this feature. It's just so great. Low-light photography isn't really the greatest ever, and phones like the Galaxy S9, Huawei P20 Pro, and even the Xperia XZ2 kinda run circles around the iPhone X for low-light shots. "4K video here is also incredibly good still, and is even better than some of the most recent phones that have just come available. Stabilization is great, colors are great, sharpness is great, it's still pretty awesome. So I've told you how my experience has been, but don't just take my word for it."
Thanks, Canoopsy. Hi everyone, my name is Jackson Hayes and I'm a 17-year-old photographer, cinematographer, and tech YouTuber. Just to give a little background regarding my smartphone situation, I switched to the iPhone X from the Google Pixel 2 XL. The reason for the change was due to a plethora of hardware issues. In fact, the phone was replaced twice by Google because of these issues. It eventually got to the point where I couldn't stand it anymore. Thankfully, Google agreed to refund me despite the fact that I was outside their warranty period. I switched to the iPhone 10 because it was around the same price. Admittedly, if I hadn't already purchased a Pixel for around $950 US, I probably wouldn't have bought the over $1,000 iPhone 10. And that said, after experiencing the best of Android, I certainly didn't want to downgrade to a lesser Android phone. And before some of you start writing in the comments about how buying an iPhone 10 was a downgrade because it's an iPhone, shush. Up until that point, I've primarily been an Android user. And that said, I knew what I was getting myself into when buying the 10, as I've owned an iPhone in the past. So here are my thoughts on the 10. In general, it's held up quite remarkably well. The battery life is okay, but nothing to write home about. I could take it off the charger in the morning, but by nighttime, it needs to be hooked back up to the juice. It's definitely a charge every night kind of phone. The phone's general performance feels fantastic. It runs just as fast as it did when I got it, which is a welcome benefit of iOS's performance optimizations. Now, as far as the apps that I use on my iPhone 10, I'm almost the exact opposite of Canoopsy. I replace most of the stock apps with third-party solutions. I use Google Calendar instead of Apple Calendar, Bear instead of Apple Notes, Google Play Music instead of Apple Music. You get the picture. And that leads me to my camera situation on this device, and I want to dive into this a bit for you all. The camera hardware itself is fantastic, as is to be expected from an Apple device, especially one at this price range. That said, I don't use the stock camera app to capture most of my photos. I use an app called Halide instead. This is a super powerful, intuitively designed manual camera app. The thing that makes it so great is the fact that it enables me to shoot in RAW. RAW, if you aren't aware, is a photo format that enables you to have much more information in the saved photo. It doesn't compress the image like JPEG, the typical photo format, does. Instead, it captures all the information that the camera sees. Here are some examples showcasing the power of RAW. Apple loves to say on stage that this is the best phone we've ever made. And while it's kind of a no-brainer sentence, it's truly the case here with the 10. The company has created something truly beautiful with this device. Overall, I really enjoy my iPhone 10, and I think it is a remarkable piece of technology. Back to you, Canoopsy.
Thanks, Jackson. Be sure to check out his channel as well, link in the video description, and please do subscribe. Now to summarize, the iPhone 10 is a very expensive phone, $1,000 US to start and over $1,300 Canadian unlocked. I wouldn't say it's worth that price to everyone, and there are many phones for cheaper that offer a lot as well. But I'm not gonna lie, if you can justify the price tag and if you did buy this phone today, you would definitely still enjoy it. But that being said, wait until the fall if you can for the next big iPhone launch, where the next iPhone may actually become more affordable while gaining a whole bunch of new features. Let me know what you want to see in the next iPhone in the comments down below, as well as also let me know your experience with the iPhone 10 so far if you have this phone. And thank you for watching.